Hi, this is going to be a quick practical review of some knives that I own that I carry around every day. Well, most of them I carry around every day. This is mainly targeted for folks who like to keep a small knife with them at all times for opening boxes, packages, just general, trimming little cloths off of your shirts or pants, just basic everyday kind of uses. These knives are not the best for defensive purposes, although they certainly could be used in that way. That's not their primary purpose. The primary purpose is for a respectable level of carry of a knife, so that it is, just like your grandpa used to carry around as a pocket knife whenever he grew up. So, real quick then, what we've got on the far left is a SOG Flash 1. There are others online on YouTube that review each one of these knives to detail. I'm not going to do that. But you've probably seen a guy named Nut and Fancy review the heck out of this, made this very popular, and for really good reason. It's a super, super light knife. It's made by SOG, and you can buy these things online, as well as in a lot of Dick's or Cabela's or Field and Stream stores. Just fantastic. It is an assisted opening knife, technically, in that it's got a little bit of spring in here. You can remove the spring if you need. But what I love about this thing is it is so incredibly light. It's 1.2 ounces, and it is very small, and it's got a nice little bolster to it. You can cut things very finely, and what I love is the semi-serrated knife form or blade design. There are some things that just need a little bit of a bite to them to get them started on the cut. And also when you're setting them on a flat surface, you can cut through them a little bit by doing some sawing. So it actually has kind of a built-in saw with the knife, and then it has a smooth edge here. So it's not like it's fully serrated across the entire blade. I love this knife. It is incredibly concealable. It doesn't freak people out whenever they see it. It's got a deep clip, so you can hang it on your pocket. So the only thing you see is the clip like that. You can reach in. It's tip up. And so the nice thing about that is that you reach into your pocket and you pull it out, and then you can deploy it that way, cut your stuff. And then I love being able to handle a knife with a single hand, because you may have something else in your other hand that you're working with that you can put away. It also has a lock that if you feel real nervous about it opening in your pocket, it won't open like that. And again, you can remove the spring if your jurisdiction requires you to not have a technically assisted opening knife. Fantastic knife. Like I said, again, it is 1.2 ounces. I think on this scale it shows up as 1.15. Let's round up to 1.2. So incredibly light. Almost as light is this Ken Onion Ripple. We'll measure that real quick. That comes in at 1.8 ounces. Well, 1.75. It is really, really a nice knife. Especially for the money. You can get these on sale for maybe 25 bucks. I think I got this one for maybe around 30. You can get these 25 if you strike while the iron is hot. I've only been able to find them at that price with a fully smooth edge across. The serrated ones are a lot more expensive. They come with a little bit different materials to them, a little more expensive materials. But this thing, once you get it moved and broken in and tightened correctly, it is just as smooth as can be. It's very easy to manipulate with one hand. It's fun to kind of sit and play around with and develop your dexterity in your hand. But it is just fantastic. It just feels great. It sounds great. It's easy again. It is unfortunately tip down carry only, and so when you reach down into your pocket and you lift it out, you have to rotate the thing around. That's why a lot of people like tip up, is that you can reach in and you can pull the knife straight out and deploy it from there. But not really a big deal for utility purposes. But again, fantastic knife, especially if you use a little bit of a file and you go across some of these edges. It comes naturally stressed like this, distressed rather, and so it's just got a really cool look. It's very light, got just a great form factor for medium-sized hands like mine. And going up on the scale then to literally on the scale is the Kershaw Leek. This is an extremely popular knife, and you can see I added grip tape to it because the anodized finish on the thing is a bit slippery. I got the orange one specifically because it is assisted opening and it has a really sharp little edge to it. And so my thinking is that I love that edge. I love that point. I love how thin the knife is. I love how finely you can cut with it. I love how balanced it is. I love the feel of it. But that edge plus the assisted opening feature could freak somebody out, in particular in some jurisdictions. And if you get pulled over by a cop, or if you need to let them know, by the way, officer, I do have a pocket knife in my right pocket. How would you like me to proceed? If or when they pull this out, Orange says to me anyway that this is a safety or utility purpose knife. It is not a fighting knife. And indeed, it's not really that big enough to be, it could be used that way, I guess, but it's not really purposed for that. But again, fantastic knife, very smooth edges throughout, sharp where it needs to be. You have to get a little practice, I think, to manipulate this with one hand. You don't want to fumble the knife, have your fingers in here while you're closing it. And it does open very quickly, and so you need to be comfortable with that. But the knife itself is a bit heavier than these, but not tremendously so. It is 2.5 ounces. And so it's still very pocketable. You can hang it with it. It doesn't have a deep concealment clip like that one does, but it's like this one in that it rides in your pocket just about that high unless you place it entirely in your pocket. So again, fantastic knife. Speaking of fantastic knives, I bought a mini Griptilian for the first time the other day. I've been wanting one for a long time. I was at a show, and this was sitting on the table and had a price of $90, as most of them do. And the guy was willing to let it go for $50. So absolutely, I snatched it up. Fantastic knife. What is great about the Griptilian, the mini Griptilian made by Benchmade, is that the knife steel is fantastic quality. It is a 154 cm blade. I went ahead and got the open Spyderco style opening hole, and it has also the kind of the sheep's foot single plain blade to it. It's got a bit of a curve that just makes for an excellent cutting edge, and the thickness of the knife and the lack of play in when it's locked is just incredible. It's also really pleasant to play with. It just has a real nice feel. It opens and closes very easily, and it locks down with a spring nice and firmly. And the curve on it, the ergonomics of the knife itself are really pleasant. Just can't recommend this knife highly enough. In fact, ever since I got it, I've been carrying it every single day, just because it is so pleasant to hold. I love the blue color myself. It's a non-threatening color. It's also easy to find, and just highly recommend it. And did show you that it was 2.6 ounces. So just a teeny bit more than the Kershaw Leak. So it's still very easy and pocketable. Right about the same weight is the larger version of the CRKT Ken Onion Ripple. It's just a bigger version. In fact, if I compare them side by side, it is quite a bit bigger. It's a bit heavier. Remember, this guy is at 1.8 ounces. This guy is sitting at 2.6. So 8 ounce or 0.8, 8/10 of an ounce heavier. Not that big of a deal, but and it has a longer knife to it, longer blade. Again, it's a flat ground, very smooth rounded edge on the back of this blade as well as this one. And if you go with a file over these edges and smooth them out, but leave this barbed, it is a really nice, pleasant knife to hold. It doesn't bite you at all. Real easy to flip. The carry is unfortunately tipped down, so you reach into your pocket and you pull it out. You have to rotate it before you open it. Not a big deal, but most folks who are with knives for a while end up liking tip up. Not everybody, that's cool, whatever. So that's that. Great knife. Another one that I picked up at a show just on a whim, paid only $25 for this when they were going for 50 or 60 retail. They are discontinued, is the CRKT Mirage, and it has a very thin blade that's extremely sharp and is semi-serrated, and it has these plastic scales with a liner inside of it. It's a little bit heavier of a blade, so I can see why the cost is low. The blade steel isn't near as good as like the 154 cm or the VG10 that we'll look at over here, but it is fantastically sharp, a great utility knife, especially for cutting very, very thin cuts. If you want to have it to cut not only boxes and packages and little threads off of your clothes, but also, have handy to be able to cut an apple up or a tomato. This is a fantastic knife for that. Yeah, it could also be used for fighting or defense. It's not its primary purpose, but it could be done as well. And it's got a fairly solid lock, even though liner locks sometimes get a reputation for not being as solid as a lock back or a mechanism, like this, where you've got a real solid click to them. This isn't bad. It's got and once you get it worked in, these little nylon washers with a little bit of oil can be made very, very smooth. Not as smooth as these, but because nylon washers still have a bit of friction versus like a ball bearing mechanism, but still pretty smooth. And the weight on this guy is still at a reasonable 2.8 ounces. Now, personally, once I start getting up above 2.5 ounces or so, I don't like to carry a knife quite as big or heavy in a pair of khakis or a pair of shorts. It just kind of knocks around a bit. So either I will carry it, and this again is tipped down. I will carry it on either on the pocket, on the edge of the pocket, or maybe on a belt. But generally, I tend to go for a smaller, lighter knife to carry around. Now, next step up is this gentleman's knife. This is the Kershaw Nakamura. These are discontinued. They're hard to find. If you do find one and you got the spare cash, this is a magnificently beautiful knife. It's got a burled wood handle or liner and a bolster that's made out of 3 steels, stainless steel, brass, and nickel, I believe, that are layered so that whenever they machine this thing down, whenever they polish this down, you see patterns. I don't know how you're able to see that or not, but you see patterns of the metals shine through. And then the knife itself is not only a really fine VG10 steel, but it's a clad 2 different steel blade, where part of it is softer than the other, so that it maintains a great edge, but it also isn't so brittle that if you were to hit it or smack it, that it would shatter. That's the problem with really, really brittle steels that hold their edges, is that they can also be brittle to transverse stress and can break or shatter. The clip is just beautiful. It sits about, it looks like this when it sits in your pocket. And then, you pull that out and everybody's like, oh, wow, man, that's a beautiful knife. So if you're in an area where you can take the additional weight and keep this in your pocket and you don't want to freak people out, but you want to have a pocket knife with you, this is an excellent upscale gentleman's pocket knife. It's very, very smooth. It's extremely sharp. I think the first day that I had it, I was playing around with it back and forth on the couch, and I had my finger in just a little bit on the edge, and I slipped off a little bit of skin there. So a very sharp knife, very beautiful. On the other side, actually, I better weigh this for you. This one starts to get a little bit heavier, and she is up around the 3.3 ounce level. The last one that I want to show is on the extreme, is not one that I would carry around every day. This is just a teeny bit heavier than this one, so you can see that this one's got a bit of weight to it. But this one I found at a bark park. Somebody had dropped it there and failed to pick it up and take it home with them. It is a G10 scaled knife. I don't know what model it is. I don't know how much these were retail. Probably they weren't cheap, but look at that knife on it. Semi-serrated with a nice smooth edge. Got a bit of a recurve here on the backside. Very, very sharp. It's got the classic Spyderco opening hole to it. It is a very smooth opener, and it is all openable one hand. It has a regular looking clip that would, show that out of your pocket if you're holding it, if you're keeping it internally. However, the blade size is over 3 inches, and in most jurisdictions, this would end up being considered an illegal knife or a fighting knife or a weapon, and so you would need to not conceal it. You would need to make it easily visible. Obviously, check your own local laws and wherever you're traveling, etc. This is not a knife that I tend to carry around. This is a knife that I take sometimes on camping trips, and so if I need to cut some paracord or something a bit tougher, that blade, that VG10 blade, is fully capable of that. In fact, you can see I've got use marks all over it. But I just wanted to show that in terms of comparison. It's still fairly light. It is something that you could carry. It's just a larger knife and not something that I do find myself carrying every day. So circling all back around, what do I use the most? Gosh, ever since I got this mini Griptilian, I cannot stop carrying this. I cannot stop playing with this thing. it just feels so darn good. So if you can get a mini grip, I think you'd be really, really happy with this for everyday carry. If you can't spend the $90 or the 50, if you get it at a steal like I did, but still want to get a really good quality knife, I highly recommend for a very small side the SOG Flash 1, or if you see one of these things on sale for $25 at Dick's or your local Field and Stream store, this really is a very underrated knife. I cannot speak highly enough about that. If you're okay with an assisted opening knife and want that real sharp edge, the Kershaw Leak with some grippy grip tape, highly recommended, is also a fantastic option as well. So there you go. Hope that was helpful, and you have a great day.